live. Hello, we are now live. We exist, and we are ready to rank cards. We're going to be ranking enchantments today. We just came up with the enchantment ranking. It's going to be... Hello, okay, we are now live. Yeah, sorry, let me set this up real quick. It's gonna be interesting. We were just discussing like how best to rank enchantments, since of course like a lot of these are niche and they have their own use cases some of the time. Some of them have like very little new use cases. Some of them are like an always take over the other enchantments if they overlap on like what they're trying to do. But I think we have a pretty good tier list in mind. Let me show off that tier list briefly. Uh-oh, it's not showing the tier list.
You mind sharing? There you go, I can see it.
There we go. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, now we're sharing the tier list. Cool. So yeah, we have game changing, good for support, good for damage, very niche, removed usually or not taken, not no taken, but you know, spelling. We're gonna be ranking everything, not necessarily in name order, of course, because like I just went through all the heroes, so this is all gonna be randomly kind of ordered. Sorry about that. I wish I organized it a little bit better, but I didn't sleep a lot, so here we are. Anyways, how are you doing, GA? You ready? What do you think about Command and Conquer?
Oh, I lost the audio, I think.
Oh, how you feeling about Command and Conquer?
Oh, it's amazing. It's easy one. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty great.
Incredible.
Yeah, I don't know. It is like close to game changing for me in terms of.
Yeah, I think so.
Like it's a really good heal for that a warrior can provide, and that's been very meaningful on a lot of teams because like not only does it of course recover HP, but it gives you vitality as well, and then gives powerful to the whole team while giving a bunch of block and mitigate, because block charges, and then the mitigate just is so good at keeping you alive. Like it's one of the best defensive cards in the game. Yeah.
100%. And that kind of leads us on to defensive strategy in conjunction, because you can get them both.
Right,
they
in
both
conjunction.
Proc skills.
Yeah, defense.
When you yeah,
defensive.
When you draw a hand of both, it's just feels so good. Like you have a helping hand, defensive strategy, and a command and conquer, and you just chain through the deck.
Yeah, I think defensive strategy is like one of those things that is only outdone by like Steel Forge for me in terms of defense.
Yeah.
Because the fact that you're drawing cards while providing a ton of block to your whole team, like you're buying yourself at least one turn, potentially two if you have a lot of Fortify on. Like this in conjunction with like Heiner and starting with Fortify is great. It's one of the reasons that Bree is like the second best tank to me. Not only because her high stat line, like HP total and like resistances are good, and she's really fast, so she can actually block on time. But defensive strategy just lets her actually block super efficiently. So, yeah. If you struggle and you don't want to, or if you struggle finding tanks and you don't want to use Heiner as tank, you can use Bree. I highly recommend it. World in Flames. I mean, it's good. I don't know if I'd call it game changing necessarily. It's just it's a nice addition.
Good for damage.
Yeah, it's good for damage. Cornelius gets this. You do a lot of damage with your fire spells. Putting an Ember Storm into your hand. I've had times where I don't even proc all the Ember Storms like in a fight because like all the enemies go down or something, or I just like don't have enough flame spells left in hand. They don't proc off themselves because they're not, I think they're like not technically qualified as fire spells when you get those specific Ember Storms, so it doesn't like just chain into 4. But yeah, and Cornelius also doesn't struggle with powerful for the most part, so World in Flames is also like, and at the time that it's coming you're not using it as much. Dual wield is incredible. I mean, this is game changing for me anyways.
100%. Yeah,
like,
feels great once you hit level 4.
Yeah, once you get level 4, you have a bunch of Fury, which is a ton of damage, right? You're taking the Fury perk and you're getting plus 40% damage, which is already like really good. And on top of that, you get your best attack, which if you're playing like Whirlwind on Grookly, you just end the fight immediately. Like it's just every floor fight, you could just chalk up to getting enough energy on Grookly to do double Whirlwind with like some Sharp and some Fury and stuff, and like you'll end fights easy.
Yeah, even Cleave, Sweeping Strike, Carnage.
Yep. Yeah.
It feels really, really good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Carnage on like bosses. Oh, so good. Follow-up attack or follow-up. This is Magnus's damage card. For attacks, it reduces the highest cost attack by 5 in hand. Let me go back to the game, like double check and look at this. It's like a little bit hard for me to navigate. God, I have way too many tabs open. Also, sorry, I'm on the mod patch.
Yeah, that's 5.
Heroes. Yeah, okay, reduce the cost by 5. Yeah, 3 initially, 5 at the end. So this allows Magnus to play really expensive cards like Whirlwind, or anything, honestly, in the early game. Like, there's some decent expensive cards for potentially free. And it's good value, but it's not necessarily like, what's it called?
Game changing. What's interesting to me is I actually think in the early game, it would be in the good for damage category. But once you can buy Whirlwind,
I agree.
Then it becomes it's actually game changing that you can just play Whirlwind at such a huge discount. So it almost like moves from tier 3 to tier 1 the later in the run that you get, for me.
Yeah, I actually agree. I feel like the same way. Whereas early game, there's not as many good targets for it, right? So
yeah, like Blade Storm. It's what's kind of cool is there's some tech like you can, even when he's a support. I've played this with like a bluff to proc it, and let's just say you want I wanted Mortal Strike for a shadow reduction because it's so much decay, and so it makes Mortal Strike like free. So it does have these niche uses as well.
Oh, right. Yeah, some of my cards might not be exactly correct, but yes, yeah, Mortal Strike. Yeah, I agree. Like I've had it on like a big Skull Splitter before, where it's just like, it's like 60 base damage or whatever, and you play it for free, and you're like, that feels not bad. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, the primary use is what we're talking about for Whirlwind, but it is interesting that it has application elsewhere. I would put it low down in the game changing. Personally.
Oh, personally, like low down game changing. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I'm gonna reserve. Maybe I don't know. I might make like another tier list for game changing. These cards are all like much higher rated for me, even though like in the early game it's nice. Like these are good throughout for me.
Okay.
All right, Elemental Proliferation. This is very niche to me. I don't know about you.
I agree.
Like this.
Yeah. It's the problem is it's competing with enchant weapons, which is just so fun.
Transforming your damage is good. Yeah.
Like,
you're competing with something that also gives you damage and applies like one, you can do it for other heroes, and it also gives you whatever like your biggest damage thing is. So if you need to apply chill, you're applying chill and doing cold damage, fire damage, burn. Like Elemental Proliferation, you're playing everything, which means you're not probably as focused on one thing. Like you're not playing wet without Elemental Proliferation, so the cold damage is probably not like exactly what you're going for. And you might be doing fire and lightning, but they don't exactly synergize. And it's also only for one turn instead of like multiple uses, so you really have to get maximum value out of it. It makes it a very difficult card to use. It's kind of fun though. Grudge. This is gonna be our first usually not taken / removed.
Yes.
GA was just
change this.
Yeah, GA was just asking me, he's like, when have you ever taken this? And I was like, oh, I have tried it. It's not very good. I tried it when I was trying to not deal damage through like attacking, like through playing like attack cards or anything like that. And it still wasn't good in that use case. So that should say enough about it. It's too slow. Though I guess if you're going really slow, maybe I can see this like being an early game. Like this would be totally fine on not high level madness, because you could just take hits. You could like let the fight go on and eventually win with like a bunch of fury. But early, like high madness, it's just not really good to take hits. Last Guardian, I mean, is like good for support.
Yeah,
like good for
I used to
tanking,
take this a lot more than I do these days, just because of the functionality. Even when I'm going tank Heiner, we'll talk about fusion laser in a second. The extra fortify, unless you're stacking, doesn't often make a huge difference versus the vulnerable application on fusion laser, even when I am going tank. So I like it, but I used to be much higher on it than I am today.
Yeah, I like it when I do fortify stacking. I like it when I'm doing really slow teams too. Like this does give Heiner like stupid resistance and like survivability. Like even if he gets hit low, he just comes right back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, Bin Bin. Hope you're doing well. Yeah. Onslaught, this is Grookly's follow-up. Very different card. um, you draw a card. The one thing I hate about this card is that you don't reduce the cost of the card that you draw.
Yeah. Yeah, the wording is very strange.
And like I feel like you should reduce the cost of the card that you draw on Onslaught. That's the only thing I don't like. But you're reducing the cost of the 4 highest cards in your hand by 1, or highest attacks, right?
Yeah, it's
So
really good.
potentially huge energy value. Yeah, 4 highest costed cards by 1. So good when you're playing attack Rookly, and of course having a draw for free, like it replaces itself, so you're like not really losing that much for playing it. Assuming you can play an attack. The one thing you have to do is like have an attack initiator, which is pretty easy. You just like run a strike or something, and you're all good. Yeah, great card. Going on. So I'm trying to keep it rolling, so we finish at a normal time. But if you ever want to talk more about cards, let me know. I can, or if you want me to talk less, let me know. Reactive laser, transform damage into burn, and then when you block, deal damage.
To me, I think it's quite niche.
I think it's niche too.
I've played it. Yeah, I've played it, but it's niche. I played it with Heine Carry until I get Volcanic Axe, and you can chop and change depending on the enemy resistances if you want to transform the damage or not. But if you're going defensive Heine, and even if you are going offensive Heine, Steel Forge is too good.
Yeah, it's so hard
very, very good
when you're competing with like what is potentially the best enchantment in the game. So at least for defensive teams, like yeah, I agree. Steel Forge is good. Fusion Laser, this is one of your favorite cards. You know what? I completely underestimated the power of Fusion Laser until you showed it to me. So I have you to thank.
Yeah. Fusion Laser is unbelievable. On Heine Carry, it's the best card in the deck. And I think Heine Carry is very good. And even not on Heine Carry, having that much vulnerable, 3 charges.
Yeah.
You could like follow this up with, like an entrench or something, and then just already at max vulnerable stacks. It's really, 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 really good.
I am with Bin Bin. I think Steel Forge might need its own tier.
Yeah.
Give him where you find it in the early game. That is, yeah. We'll maybe do that. We'll do that for like we did for Divine Power. It is kind of at that level. Here, we'll just add a row above. It'll be okay when it comes up. All right. Yeah, Fusion Laser is just a ton of damage, vulnerable. That's great. Then we have Pillage. Pillage is a good card.
I think it's pretty niche.
You think it's niche?
Yeah, I do. I think you're not often playing carry Yoga. He's very good support, and then when you do get it, it's quite situational what you can do with the Rob. But then if you plan like with my Yoga carry run, like stealing from Gustav, then you can do some funny things with it. But I think it's quite niche personally.
I can very much understand that. I think the only reason I feel like it's good for damage is because this is actually like when you're playing carry Yager, you're often going physical damage. This is super, super nice for getting past Yelmer. Which is like something that physical teams often struggle with. Maybe this is less so now with like the addition of Rust. But the fact that you can take off all of Yelmer's Thorns and you can take off all of Yelmer's Reinforce and potentially the regen and like let you get hit less. I find it really good for that. Plus, if you're running a team that's not good at giving like powerful necessarily, the powerful is somewhat useful, and you reduce the highest cost card in your attack, or the highest attack in your hand permanently, which is good later on for like repetition training shenanigans. That's just my.
It's fair enough.
Yeah, that's my thing.
Yeah.
It's like it always has some use to, and plus if you have like mass bless, then you can steal from your teammates, right?
It's just not often that people are playing Yoga in that capacity. So that's why I think, yes,
Gotcha.
if you are playing him in that capacity, then yeah, it's really good. But most people aren't.
Yeah, I was just
I
like,
think,
it's 2 energy net, which is normally good, but yeah, I agree. Like you're not, yeah, you're right. You're not playing Yager or carry, but if you are, I think it's good for damage. I think
for
that's
sure.
what I'm trying to keep these tiers for. Is like if you
For
are
sure.
playing them in that state. Speaking of enchant weapons, I mean, if this isn't game changing, I don't know what is. Like,
Yeah.
transforming damage tends to be really good. It
Less
just
good
enables
now,
a
but
lot of
still
teams.
really less good now, but still really, really, really good.
Yeah, well, the fact that you
Um,
get to choose on the damage,
yeah, it's the double. The you can't double dip anymore,
yeah,
but it's still very, 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 very good, and
yeah,
it's really fun. It unlocks so many fun things, right? Like, it's just one of the most fun card, if not the most fun card in the game, in my opinion.
and the fact that like the enchantment that it like creates stays in your deck and you can potentially pull it off multiple times is very fun
Yeah.
too. Like,
Yep.
I I think enchant weapons is like one of the best cards just for enjoyment of the game.
Yeah. Agreed.
So
Where would you put it? In
I
the
put it in game changing, just because like this can literally change your plans for what you want your team to do.
would you? I'd put it high up in game changing, or
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, I didn't have like a thing in mind. Honestly, let's see. I'd put, well, the defensive strategies here. I put it here. It's weird because like level 2
yeah,
enchantments, obviously they're like different types in the game.
sure,
But yeah, like a defensive strategy is really good at enabling you to get through the early game. Enchant weapons is really good at just building certain damage type teams, so it's a lot of fun.
yeah,
Yeah, enchant weapons is one of the best design enchantments. That's I agree with that, Bin. That is that is how I feel too. Maneuver. This is this card I
niche.
don't believe in very much. Yeah. What's funny is like, this is God. Maneuver, here it is. Yeah, it's similar to like Sylvie's card, except you're not getting damage ups. You're getting evasion and block. This is block Andrin only. Who's playing this most likely, or like defensive, like tank Andrin, and that's very very unusual because he's like not going to be the best even with this card. So like almost every warrior is better than Andrin at tanking. Though evasion can be nice, there's for some reason enemies that also just like to counter evasion, and Andrin's often the fastest hero, so he'll get shackled more often than not, so the evasion falls off immediately. It's a lot worse than it sounds, at least on High Madness.
Yeah, yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Serrated weapons, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I
This is
think it's
like,
good for damage.
yeah, this is good for damage. It's +4 damage. It gives you sharp, right? And applies bleed.
Yeah, every time you damage with it, yeah,
Yeah.
it's really good. It's really good on Andrin carry if you're crazy enough to do that.
Hello, Artemisy. Yeah, I think serrated weapons is a fine damage card. It's nice to go bleed with it too. Bleed Andrin is a thing. Though on Madness 18, bleed and poison aren't that good, so I don't know. Red Storm, though, this is very niche, probably at high level, right? Like,
Very niche, yeah. Especially at Madness 18. I mean,
you're just not
yeah,
playing bleed most of the time. This is weird because like it's the problem with Red Storm is that it's competing with dual wield, right?
yeah,
And dual wield is like, well, if you played more whirlwinds, you could get a lot of bleed that way and a lot more damage, right? And so like it's hard. You're usually not like doing this if you're full carry Grookly. You're doing this if you're like support bleed Grookly and trying to enable another person to deal more damage from the bleed, which is like weird. But I've done it. Yeah. Overall, super niche. I'm gonna put it pretty close to where I put Riposte here, honestly. Like, I think Riposte maybe I've used more than Maneuver, but like not
yeah,
for good reasons. Like it's because Maneuver is competing with a harder, like with Wild Hunt, and Riposte is like I sometimes take it because I'm not doing damage with Andrin a lot of the time. So Riposte is just like more takeable. But most of the time, I mean, this is usually removed, right? Like if we're being honest.
yeah, yeah. most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put it there because you're often like his level 4s. If you're not going damage Andrin and playing serrated weapons, then you're just probably taking riposte and then removing it immediately or something. The riposte might have some niche use if you like deflect blocks.
Yeah.
Sausage Factory. I mean, this is a good card. This is a great
I
card
think
for
it's
support.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's ahead of Last Guardian, relatively speaking. I'm always,
Yeah.
when you get this in on Act 1, the fact that it dispels bleed and draws you 2 and gains you 2 energy, I think it's amazing. I would put it really high and good for support, if not low and game changing. Whenever I get it, it just feels amazing.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. Because it removes one of the most annoying statuses early game too, which is bleed. So
Yeah.
like it helps out a lot on those fights. And it draws you cards, of course, and reduces cost of skills by 2. It's another net 2 energy card. Hidden Hand is fantastic.
I think it's good for damage
Yeah.
to me. I don't like. I'm always. It is hard. You obviously have to. There are times where you have it up and you're not quite able to proc it because you've got too many blade flurries or something on planet nines. But the extra reach is nice. I would put it below follow up personally and below onslaught.
Yeah. Trying to figure out how I want to put it. Yeah, at the time that you get it, it does do a lot. Like 3 extra energy and like going full power and 5 extra cards that's a lot of value for a single 0 cost card to give.
Yeah, if you can proc it, yeah.
Yeah, like you said, it's one of those funny things that like I think Hidden Hand is better if you're running like 20 card decks. And I think it feels a lot worse when you're running like 15 card decks because you're often just overdrawing into your discard.
Yeah.
Feed the Rich, high damage card here.
I really like Feed the Rich.
I like it too.
I like it in support as well, even just with like a bluff.
Right. Well, yeah, in support, this is also the enabler of the or one of the big enablers of Yager transferring bleed Fury, right? Because this is a really high bleed card.
Yes. Yeah. Gorge. 20 bleed.
Yeah. Let me look at this. Yeah. Gorge. Yeah. 20 bleed is so much. Then that's not like including any bleed stacks. So yeah, and then of course you get Gourmet Meat, which is increase aura charges by 20%.
Yeah.
Like and energize.
And gives an energize. Yeah.
Yeah, and draws you a card, of course. So like, yeah, you're right. It's so good in support. It's so good in damage. I mean, it's weird. I don't quite feel like it's game changing, but I almost want to like put it high in like damage and support.